Hello everyone. So in this video, let's try to understand the code that was written in the previous video. So first of all, we need to start this server, okay? And for that, I'm just going to open up my terminal. Inside terminal, you can see already I am inside my project directory, okay? Then you need to run this command npm run dev, which is going to start your development server. So as you can see in the terminal, our development server is running locally on port 5173. So we can just simply copy this, okay? And I'm going to open up a new browser tab, and here I can just open this. And you see, this is our, login page. By default, we are getting redirected to login page, but I just visited localhost 5173. So let's understand how this is happening. So inside source, you can see there is a component called app.tsx, and also this is the root component. By root component, what I mean is you can see this is entry file main.tsx from where the compilation of our React code starts. And here you can see the first, or you can say the top level component used is app. So that's why I'm calling this the root component. Okay, so that means this is the parent of all components inside our application. Okay, here we have the routing logic. Okay, here we have routing logic as well as theme. So let's first understand how the routing is working, then I'll also take you through theme. Okay, so you can see inside app at a broad level we have this router component which contains rest of the code. Okay, please ignore theme provider for now. I'll explain what this theme provider is doing over here and how the theming light and dark theme is working, but for now you need to focus on just this part. Okay, so let's understand what is this router, where is it coming from, and what its job. So you can see this router is actually a component called browser router, but we have renamed it, okay, during the import, and it's coming from React Router DOM. So now React Router DOM is a library which specializes in, you know, uh, creating a multi-page application. Right now, we are building a React app, and React apps are simply single-page applications. So we are just, using this third-party library which is called React Router DOM, not a part of React library itself, which gives us this extra functionality of routing. So in order to introduce routing inside our React app, first step is to wrap our whole component using this browser router component. So we have renamed it as router. That's why every code, okay, that means every children component is inside this router, or you can say browser router. I hope you got my point. Then the next thing is this routes and route. Now you can see I'm going to take you back to the browser, okay? And if I just click on this create a new account, please pay attention to this route over here. Right now we are at auth/login, but if I click on create a new account, you will see that it changes to auth/signup. So now these two pages, they have something in common. This auth is common among them, and this is called grouping. Okay, so now we have grouped multiple routes together, and that is why we need this routes component, okay, in order to group multiple route. So let's see this in action. Here you can see this is our routes component that is in use here. Okay, and using this, inside this we have multiple routes defined. Okay, you can see over here there are multiple routes. So as per this React Router DOM library, if we want to have routing inside our React application, first step is to get all the components wrapped under browser router, okay, which is called router in our case. And inside that, we need to have another children that is called routes. Then routes can have multiple route, okay. I hope this is not confusing to you. Actually, it's very, simple. It's like plain English. So here you can see this route can contain multiple other childrens, okay, which are the same component, but they have something different. So here you can see at this top level, which this route which contains all the authentication related routes, the path is set to /auth. And here we have something called element. Now this element is the JSX, you can say, or the React component that will be rendered when we visit this particular path. Okay. inside our application. And here you can see we are defining the first route as index. Now this index means whenever someone visits just slash auth, you have to automatically send them to auth slash login. So here you can see element is not just, a simple, it's not just a simple React component. Here we are using something special which is called navigate, and it's coming from React Router DOM. And here we are passing it a path where it has to navigate. So whenever someone visits slash auth, our routing logic will tell it, okay, you have to send them to the index route, and the index route is simply, navigating to auth slash login. And it's also saying that we need to replace the previous path, that is slash auth altogether. So that's why even if you try to visit, just slash auth, you will see immediately will be sent to slash auth slash login. Okay, exactly that is what's happening over here. And now you can see for login what has to be rendered. Okay, the at login path what has to be rendered, we have specified specifically over here. This is actually the login page component. Similarly, we have for sign up, verify email, forward password, and reset password. And you can just add after slash auth slash login slash sign up slash verify email, and you'll be able to get to these pages. So let's actually see all this in action. So I'm just going to collapse this, sidebar, and let's put our browser and Codebase side by side. Then here I'm just going to manually visit slash sign up, and you can see this is our sign up form, or you can say the registration form. After this, if I try to visit verify email, okay, actually I'm not able to visit that. So let's try again, and then I'll tell you what may be the reason. So here we have verify dash email. First of all, I need to make sure that I'm not making any typing mistake. Okay, otherwise it's also not going to work. So here you can see when we visit auth slash verify email, it has sent us to this, page where we are asked to enter 6-digit code. Okay, and there is a nice OTP input, and it also comes with these functionalities like if you type, then the focus automatically shifts to the next input. Okay, so we are also going to decode how this is working behind the scenes. And if you just remove, the cursor also moves one step back. So this is quite good. And also not just that, you can see inside the form this button is currently deactivated, but if you fill all the 6 digit, it will be activated. So there is a lot of things happening, and we need to understand each and everything in detail. That's what I'm going to do it for you. Okay, and after this verify email, we also need to check this page, forgot password. So let's do that, slash forgot password. And when you say that you have forgotten your password, it will just simply ask you to enter your email. After that, you can send a reset link to your email, using which you will be able to get to this next page, which is called reset password. And here we'll actually send a token using backend, and I'll tell you more about that, how that works behind the scenes. But for now, let's just see what is this reset password form. It's a form with two inputs, which basically asking you to enter your new password and also confirming your new password. So these are all the authentication pages, and I hope you got the logic behind all this. Okay, and now you can see there is another, route called slash dashboard. So let's try visiting this, and I'll also try to explain you what this is doing and what its purpose. So here you can see on dashboard, uh, we have this element dashboard layout. Now this dashboard layout contains just this sidebar and this header. Why? Because among all the pages that you will visit inside dashboard, you'll see these two things in common. So whatever is common, we call it layout, and layout is, you know, uh, layout is set as the element on this common path. So that is why on slash dashboard we have specified element is dashboard layout. Now we'll go inside dashboard layout, and I'll explain you every line of code that is written inside of it. But for now, let's just again go over the logic that I explained you for the authentication. that there is an index page, okay, and this dashboard component has to be rendered when we just visit slash dashboard. So you can see if I am just visiting slash dashboard, we are seeing some component rendering inside this section, and that is because of this dashboard page. Similarly, we have customers, support, reports, documents, and settings. So those are the other routes that you can visit. So here, if I just visit customers, okay, you will see this page. And also we have some default redirects, which means if I just try to type some gibberish over here, and this kind of page doesn't actually exist inside our application, so it's then going to go to this fallback cases. And here you can see when someone just visits slash, that means just the root, that means localhost 5173, it's asking it to navigate to the login page, and if someone visits any other page which is not valid, it's again going to send them to login. So if I hit enter now, I will be redirected to the login page. And actually that's not the functionality I want. I want to have some 404 page, okay, but we'll do that later. First of all, we need to fix all these authentication pages. That is our priority right now. And also I need to explain you what is happening inside all these forms. So let's now actually I'm just going to put it into full browser mode, okay, and also over here let me also collapse this terminal, and now we can start going over all the authentication pages one by one. So again, I'm just going to open up my project directories, and here what I'm going to do, let's go inside this pages folder. Now let me also explain you the file structure. So inside pages, we are going to actually, group together our pages. So here inside auth, we have all the pages related to authentication. Similarly, for dashboard, we have just one page, dashboard right now. Others are just rendering some random content, but we'll have the other pages also over here, which relates to dashboard. So I hope you get my point. Now, the first thing we need to take a look at is our login.tsx form. Okay. So now let's talk about only this login page. So I'm just going to collapse our file preview. Okay. Then I'll walk you through all this code written inside the login form. First of all, please take a look. I'm actually going to put it again side by side so that it will be easier to explain. So you can see this is our login page, and this is the code that is responsible for this rendering. Now you can see at the start of the component, we have two states, show password and set show password. Now, what is the purpose of it? Right now, you can see the password is hidden. But if I click on this eye icon, you can see now it's visible what I'm typing. So that state is getting maintained by this user state. Okay. By default, it's false. That means the password won't be visible. But if you toggle it, it will be visible, and you can just keep toggling it, okay, between true and false. That's the logic behind it. Now you can see right now the form state is getting managed using user state. Let me tell you that this is not the most optimized way and not the way I personally choose to go ahead with. So that's why we are going to replace it with something else. Actually, it will be an external library called React Hook Form, okay, and also we are going to add form validation. Right now it will be just the default validation. So if I try to type this and click on sign in or submit form button, you can see I get this message which says please include an at the rate and email address. If I just include an at the rate, okay, and I type something, actually now it thinks that it's some actual email, but it's not. So the validation is not actually very good right now, and also the form is not optimized, but we are going to do that. So let's understand what this handle submit is doing for now. So this handle submit is a handler function. So whenever the form gets submitted, I'll show you here we have a form component which contains all these inputs, okay, along with the button. So when we submit the form, that means we click on sign in button, okay, this handle submit will be called, and here we receive an event. First of all, we are preventing the default action. Now what is the default action? Let me show you actually by doing. So if I comment this out and I type some actual email over here, and there is some password also, and if I try to sign in, just pay attention to the to over this part, okay, and you will see something happening. So if I click on sign in, you can see now the email and password is over here at the top, okay, and remember me is equal to on. So this is not the behavior that we want. Form got submitted and all these things, all the data related to form was uh, like right now it's over here as a query param. That's not exactly the behavior I want, so that is why we need to call this e dot prevent default, okay. And after this we are just simply logging whatever form data we have over here inside this user state. So I can just open the inspector tool and let me take you to the console tab, okay. And first of all, let me clear everything that is written inside it. Now we are just going to enter some random email and random password, okay. Now if I show you, right now there is nothing inside console, but if I hit sign in, you will see that this form data was submitted, email and password. So that is exactly how this handle submit is working right now. Let's not talk about this handle change and what it's doing. So whenever we type something inside email address or password, or we toggle this remember me, actually this handle change gets triggered, okay. It takes the previous data from set form data, okay, from form data actually, and then it calls set form data. You can see this is the previous data, and then for like email or password or whatever field is changed, it's actually adding the new value over here. So that is exactly what's happening on each keystroke. This is actually very unoptimized way to do it, but I'll also tell you how to do it in the most uh, optimized way very soon. So I think these handler functions are done for now, okay, and also this is state. So we can now talk about the JSX that is written inside of it. Okay. Now, broadly speaking, you can see there is simply a div which has class name space y6. Now, this space y6, it's simply a Tailwind CSS utility class, which simply tells us that between all these, uh, whatever is aligned vertically, they are going to have uh, a spacing between them of 6. Now, 6 here doesn't actually mean it's the value in pixel. You need to multiply it by 4, okay. So it will be actually 24 pixel space between this customer support and this card which contains the sign in form. So if I just modify this value to let's say 12, you'll see that this space will get just bigger. So let me just take it back like this, okay. And here I also found one more thing, that this customer support manage your customer support operations, this is not actually the part of this login form. All the JSX that is written over here is just rendering this card. So if I increase this space by 6, okay, to space by 12, you will see the spacing over here increases, okay. This sign into your account or create new account and the rest of the form, the spacing between these two things got just wider. So I hope you understood, okay, what we are doing over here. Now let's take a look at inside this div. So here inside this div, you'll see just two things. There is a H2 heading which says sign into your account that you can see over here, and with some CSS utility classes coming from Tailwind CSS. And then we have a paragraph, okay, which is responsible for rendering or create a new account. Okay. So this is how the rendering is done. Okay. Then we have form. Okay, now this form is responsible for for rendering all these other things like the email address, password, remember me, forgot your password link, and also the sign in button. You can see there is a div, and this div is responsible for rendering email address and email input. So this is the label. Okay, this is the label, and it's bound to this email. So if you click on it, or let me show you this way. If you click on email address, okay, this text, this will get active basically. Okay, so that is why this we have this HTML4 and ID. We are basically you know binding them together. Then we have some class name for styling. Similarly, here we also have some class names. This is the placeholder, the text that is shown when there is no input. Okay, then we have simply bounded on change trigger to this handle change function. Okay, over here. Then the value is coming from the form data. over here from the user state. Okay, and it's a required field, so required is set to true. Let me tell you, if you are if you do not have much experience with React, then it's my duty to tell you that whenever we are just simply writing the name of some prop, okay, and not providing any value for it, then it must be a boolean prop. And when we do so, it simply means that we are setting it to true. So in this case, if you hover over required, you will see that uh, it has to be a boolean value, okay, and it's not required, okay, uh, which means you can escape writing required over here, but if you are writing it, this means you are setting it to true, okay, without any value. This means just true. If you set it to false, then the form is not going to basically implement, basically it will not be mandatory. Okay, in short, here it says autocomplete email, so that's why it's trying to guess the email. Okay, type is set to email, name is the name of field by which we are identifying it. So similarly, we have the password label and the password input. Now there is something different about password input, and that is this button towards the end. Okay, so add this button towards the end. We have wrapped this input inside a div which has class relative. Why relative? Because this button was supposed to be uh, absolutely positioned in comparison to this div or the parent. Okay, because absolute elements are positioned relative to their closest relative parent. And then here we have just simply styled it towards the end. Okay, and also made sure that it's aligning towards the center horizontally. Then we just have logic over here. Okay, we're using a ternary operator. So if show password is true, then we show this icon, otherwise the other icon. That is what's happening over here. Then we simply have a div which contains two things: remember me input and your forgot password link. So here you can see this is forgot password link, and there is an input called remember me. And at the last we have button. Now this button is coming from stat cn ui, and we are simply just passing the text that has to be rendered inside it. You can see the only class name we have used is width full, and the type is set to submit, which means when we click on this button, the whole form or this form like which is housing this button will get submitted. Okay, and what happens when form gets submitted? This on submit will be triggered, which in turn is going to trigger handle submit. Okay, so I think this is a good explanation for this sign in. Okay, and one thing that I have missed over here is to explain how this customer support and manage your customer support operations is coming. So let me take you to the sidebar. So I'm just going to open it now. Okay. Let me first take it into full screen mode. Okay. Then here I'm just going to open up the sidebar, and inside components we'll have this layout folder. Now if you take a look inside layout, there is a file called auth layout.tsx. Now what is this auth layout doing? I'm just going to collapse this div for now. You can see there is a div which takes the full height of a screen, background color, and also what should be the background color in dark mode. Then it has just flex property, which is basically forcing all the content to sit at the center of the page horizontally as well as vertically. Then we have padding in x and y direction. Similarly, we are adding some responsive values. So for a small screen, for large screen, what should be the padding, that kind of stuff. Then we have a div again nested inside it, and it says max width should be MD. That means equal to the medium screen size. So here you can see max width is actually a variable. It says 448 pixel after calculation over here, and space y is set to 8. Now this space y 8 is responsible for this gap between these two things. Let me demonstrate that to you. So if I just put it like this, not over here, actually I need to open another browser over here. So let me open this. Okay, and I'm going to put it over here. Then let me also collapse the file preview. If I just change this from 8 to, let's say, 16, you can see this space just got wider. Okay, so this is how it's working. Now inside this div we have both the things, this text along with this dynamic dynamic component. Why I'm telling it dynamic, you'll see just in a second. There is this component called outlet which acts like a placeholder. Okay, let me explain you what that means. So first of all, let's discuss this div. Okay, now what is this div doing? It's just forcing all the content to sit towards the center horizontally. Okay, now it has just two things, a h1 heading and a paragraph tag. Okay, with some class names for styling. So that's it. It has this customer support text and also manage your customer support operations, these two things. Okay, in a style format. So there is not much to learn about this section, but we need to discuss this div. Okay, and what is this outlet component? So now you see, uh, if I just visit another page, let's say sign up, you can see this part remains the same, only this section is changing. Now what changes is called the dynamic part. Okay, so if every layout has some dynamic part. Okay, and that is what we call children. Now children needs to have a placeholder. Okay, that means a place where the children's will be inserted. Okay, so when we use this auth layout over any page, that page content will be inserted in place of this outlet. Okay, so this outlet comes from again React Router DOM, which acts as a placeholder for children in the future. Okay, when the page will be rendered onto the screen, there will be some children that will be passed inside the layout, and that children is going to occupy this space where outlet is currently sitting. So that is the explanation for this auth layout. Now we can move on to the other pages. Actually, there is not much to explain regarding this sign up page, because what I have just explained you in login page, there is just simply a card with some heading link and also some inputs, and the form state is also exactly the same, but still I'm just going to uh, tell you all the things that are supposed to be there. Now you can see inside this we have just these states, show password and show confirm password, since we have two separate inputs related to password. So that's why inside sign up form we have two separate state as well for managing the state of password, whether it's shown or not. Now here you can see the form data structure looks a little bit different because we have more fields like first name, last name, email, password, and confirm password. Okay, now compared to login page, exactly same. We have handle submit and handle change. Okay, so there is not much to explain about it. Similarly, here we have our card component. Okay, and that card contains this div which is responsible for adding these two things. Okay, then comes the form, and here you can see on form we have handle submit. Okay, then each div is responsible for rendering something over here. You can see this div, it is a grid and it has two columns. Now it inside this we have this div which is responsible for rendering the label of first name and also the input, similarly the last name. Okay, similarly we have email address, password, and show password. Similar to what we had in login page, we also have this, I agree to the terms of service and privacy policy, this div, and at the end we have a create account button. So this is a quick explanation of signup.tsx, and if you are thinking about taking a look at all this code by yourself, feel free to do so. uh, I'm going to attach the link to the GitHub repository in the description. Please check that out. Okay, and you will be able to uh, get this code base from there. Now I'm just going to take you to the next page, and that is our verify email. So when someone signs up to your application and we need to verify their email, so we are going to take them to this page called verify email. Okay, now there is something different about this page. This is a part of uh, the layout, auth layout. Then we have this card, and this section we don't need to discuss, it's just a simple text inside some card. So here inside JSX, you can see this div is responsible for rendering the h2 and the paragraph. So I'm just going to collapse it, and we need to discuss the content of this form now. Okay, now this form has various things. You can see I'm just going to collapse it so that you can see three different parts of this form. First of all, we have this div at the top responsible for handling these text. Then a form which contains rest of the code. Now form again is divided into three parts. The first one is this div which renders this enter 6-digit code and also this OTP input. Then we have a submit button. Okay, button is coming from shadcn UI, and then a div which simply responsible for rendering these two things, back to login and then receive the code, resend code button. So let's now start by understanding from the bottom this time. So this div contains a paragraph. You can see what this is rendering. It's simply saying sending and resend code. Okay. So here you can see this is the text didn't receive the code. And if you click on send code, it turns to sending code. Okay. So basically this paragraph is responsible for this line. Okay. Now from where is this is resending coming, we can see, but first of all we need to talk about this handle resend. So when we click on this resend code button, what happens? Okay, so I'm just going to look for handle resend by pressing Control F on my keyboard, and this is the function. Now you can see the first thing it's doing is it's setting the state. So here is a state which basically manages whether we are resending the OTP or not. Okay, so by default it's false. So that's why we get this text return resend code. And when we click on resend code, this function gets triggered, which turns this to true. Okay, so that's why it changes from resend code to resending code. And also here we can see there is a timeout of 3 seconds. That means after 3 seconds this set is resending is again going to set to be false. That means it waits for 3 seconds and then it will behave like the code has been resent. So this is just like a mock-up. Right now it's not integrated to API, so it's just mimicking the behavior of actual application, but it is not functional right now. So this is our handle resend function, and here using the state, whether this is true or false. Okay, we are rendering these two things. If the code is getting resent, we display this, otherwise this. Okay, then let's talk about this link. Now this link is a component that is coming from, you can see at the top, it will be coming from React router DOM. Okay, and it's simply used to you know uh, take the user to another page. So here we have provided this prop which says when we click on this, it's going to take us to this path, auth/login. Right now we are at auth/verify email. We have some styling related to this link. Okay, and inside that we are just simply rendering an arrow. Okay, and this arrow comes from Lucid React library, and also this text which says back to login. So I hope this part is very much clear to you, what this div is doing, how this part gets rendered onto the screen. Then let's talk about this button. Okay, verify email. Now you can see this button has a type of submit. Okay, submit means this is inside the form component. You can see it's a children of the form. So when this button gets clicked, or when we hit enter on our keyboard, this submit will be triggered, which in turn is going to trigger this on submit, which will trigger handle submit. And when handle submit gets triggered, all this will be this logic will be executed. Okay, so that is exactly what this button is doing over here. But let's also discuss this disabled prop over here. Now this disabled prop is what's responsible for this look of the button. So when OTP has some digit, okay, and when it's basically checking if this OTP input has all the required 6 digit code or not. If it doesn't have, it's going to set the disable to true, otherwise it will be false. Okay, so that is how this state is switching from disable to enabled. Now that we have discussed all these three screens, I have explained you how the routing logic is working, and also about these three pages: login, sign up, and also this verify email. The rest of the pages we can discuss in the next video. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please make sure to like and also subscribe to the channel. If you have any doubts or questions, feel free to leave that in the comment section. And also, you can join the WhatsApp community from the link given in the description. Okay. So that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next video.